Welcome to this week's edition of Fun Activities in 5. I am Profe Sulita and I have a special guest here with me today. I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about virtual field trips and all of your questions about using them and how to use them and all of those things with Senorita Spanish. Ashley is here with us today. Um, Welcome. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love virtual field trips, so talking about them like 5 minutes. Uh-oh.
No, we might go a little over 5 minutes. That's okay. Sometimes I'm not very time conscious on 5 minutes, but that's okay. We will take full advantage of having you here with us. So since you love talking about virtual field trips and you are like the expert of virtual field trips, at least in the Spanish teaching world, we are really honored to have you here today to tell us what a virtual field trip is and why we would use them.
Sure. So let's just start with the what, and then we'll get into the why and the how. So, what it is when you have your students go on to some kind of digital platform, and it could be you projecting it as the teacher on a screen where you're doing it as a whole class, or it could be an individual activity. I've had students do it in pairs if it's something that's a little bit higher level for them, or if it's more like a puzzle kind of thing. But they're going to go explore a map, and it's interactive. So you can have them like clicking around and it's going to pull up images and photos and videos. And there's all sorts of different tools you can use to create them. There's all sorts of different ways you can have them exploring. But the idea is that they're going somewhere digitally that they don't have the chance to do in your classroom. And they're going to learn about whatever it is you want them to learn about through that exploration piece.
I love that. And like, I think for me, when I first started teaching Spanish, I taught in a place where students didn't get to travel. We did do a trip abroad. And when I did, of the 13 kids that I took, only one of them had ever been out of the country. And like eight of them had never been out of our state. So I love that you're getting to take kids places that they otherwise aren't going to get to go, at least not as a 16, 15-year-old
Yeah.
in high school. I love that.
Right. And the other thing that I really love about them is the geography piece of this. I don't know. I always feel like I'm getting on my soapbox here because it drives me crazy when you're like, oh, this person, so and so is from Peru. And they're like, oh, is that in Mexico? And you're like, no, I just told you it's Peru. And they're like, okay.
So
So,
that's not in
yeah,
Mexico.
I'm like, so that's an entirely different country. And, maybe I'm giving something away about my classrooms that I've been in before, but that sort of piece just drives me crazy. So putting that into the where with the maps that they're exploring makes such a difference for incorporating that geography as opposed to it just being like a separate chapter or a separate unit because even if you do that at the beginning of the year, it goes, right? Like or it doesn't stick enough. So going through it over and over again with this as a kind of a routine activity that you're coming back to gives them more chances to connect. Oh, that's where that place is that we're talking about. And I'm like, yes, it's an entirely different country.
100%. I know that I used to teach middle school. I'm back in high school now, but I worked in a building with elementary. And anytime that would happen, kids are like, oh, is that an island off the coast of Mexico? Oh, is that part of Spain? Is that whatever? I would go to the elementary teachers and I'm like, can you please teach them some geography, like something?
Yeah.
Because you're right. They think everything is part of Mexico and they think everything is an island. The world is full of islands. Did you know
I'm
that?
like,
All the
how
Spanish
many
speaking
islands?
countries are islands.
It absolutely drives me crazy. So I'm like, here is my map. Let us talk about it on the map. Because yes, that
So would you say before we like get into the how the students are using these, is that something that you would do with these virtual field trips before they start of actually pulling up that map together and just giving them the big picture and like that, no, it's
so
not part of Mexico?
so it really depends on how you're doing it in your lesson because it's not always a virtual field trip like on a country. I like to do them for like cultural reasons, or maybe we're exploring a bunch of different people, or maybe like a group of people, or even something in history that kind of hits a bunch of different places. Right? Like there's so many different ways you could do it. Whenever I do a lesson that involves students individually doing a virtual field trip, though, I always give them time to just explore the map first. Because once they're on the map, there's all these different things that they can click on and pull up. And I want them to have the time to discover before I give them I like to print the handouts, not have them do it on their computer. Like there's something to guide them through the map that I have them do usually. And I like to wait to give them that piece because otherwise I have students who are like, what do I have to find? Must find it. Find the thing. Okay, next thing I must find. And they, don't do that discovery piece. So I really give them time to click and find things.
Excellent. Okay, I love that. Are you ready for question two?
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Okay. Do virtual field trips only work on Chromebooks or any other singular device?
No, they can be on anything that's got a browser, and really, you're not even limited to a particular platform. Like I personally have a tool that I prefer to create your virtual field trips on, but you could do them on Google Slides. You could create them on PowerPoint. You could create them on ThingLink. You can use like literally you could just put them on a map and put in things on top of the map and have, students zoom in and zoom out and all of like Jamboard would have been great back when Jamboard was still, a
Yeah.
thing, anything
That
like
gave me
that.
Prezi vibes, like back when
Yes.
Prezi was
Yep.
a
Any, like
big thing.
I've created them on Prezi before too. Like anything that you can add information to that students can click through could be used to make a virtual field trip. So when you say, oh, can it only be on Chromebooks? Nope. You can do it on whatever you feel like. And then your students have access to it on whatever it is that they have access to.
I love that. What if they don't have a device?
So
Like, what if my students don't have them, but I have access?
some people like to do the whole project it and go through it together thing. I personally love to use them as like a break for Profe Day. Like maybe I'm grading, or maybe we're doing a one-on-one test, or maybe, like there's lots of different things that I could be doing, but I personally prefer to have them do it by themselves. But you can, right? Put it up on the screen, go through it together, click through together, have students come up and select which marker's coming next or talk through it. All of that stuff can happen as a whole class lesson too.
Awesome. No, I'm a huge fan of the Prove Day. I definitely know if you're doing your job right, you need a day every now and
Yeah,
then.
I'm like purposefully planning in low energy days for us is so important. And
Yes.
this is one of my go-tos for that.
Perfect. I love that. So if the student is doing it themselves, if I'm not walking them through it, um, we had a little moment about maps earlier and knowing where things are, but what skills are they going to need to be able to do this? And like, what age would you say this kind of falls into a sweet spot for?
So I have only ever taught sixth grade and up. Well, I taught fifth grade for a very brief amount of time, but sixth grade and up is kind of my happy place. So I tend to not give too much advice about elementary, but in general, the tech skills that they need are can they click on things and can they click out of things? And can
Okay.
they zoom, like scroll in and scroll out? So pretty basic tech needs, really. If you were going to give the students the handouts on the computer, they need to be able to click in and out and then also switch tabs. I prefer to do the physical handouts just because I find that, one reduces the screen time. Two, I much prefer to have them do handwriting. Three, that way they're going here and here rather than here, here,
Hmm.
here, here, here. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
We all know
very
we've got to
basic tech.
lessen those excuse
Right.
opportunities,
I'm
right?
like,
Like,
let's not.
I can't find it, Profe. I can only find this random game now. I don't know how to get back to my work. Perfect. I love that.
Yeah, very minimal
Um,
tech skills needed for them.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. And that kind of answers the is there a paper alternative?
Yes.
So we have a paper handout that we can look at the map, we can do the handout, I can put it on the screen, they can do the handout as kind of a paper alternative. You mentioned a little bit earlier about a teacher could give them a physical map. Is that an option within these? I know virtual, we kind of want to stay a little bit virtual, but
Yeah.
is there an alternative for that map piece?
Honestly, if you were going to remove, this is one of those like SAMR model things where you talk about substitution, augmentation, right? That kind of model of technology integration in your classroom. And this is one of those things where it's not just a straight up substitution
Mhm.
for, physical map to technology map because of the way that information is embedded, right? Because as they're clicking on things, they're getting videos, they're getting, audio, they might get images, short readings, all that. And so some of that they could do on a map physically, almost more like you'd have to be like a big blown up map to do it, almost like I'm
Giant
like trying to
paper.
imagine how this, yeah, like think big bulletin board with like gallery walk style things, but there are things that wouldn't transfer over
Sure.
well. Like, I was talking about how sometimes I like to do this culturally, like having them listen to a video of an artist or having them listen to an interview of somebody speaking or, all of those kinds of like auditory and visual pieces that you can embed, that would be a big piece that would be missing. Or, sometimes like if it's a cultural thing, I like to have like, here's a video of them flying the kites. And then they can see that in action. Like those pieces would be missing. So I would personally recommend the physical handouts for the like comprehension questions or graphic organizer and those, and then keeping the digital component for the exploration piece.
So, what I think I'm hearing you say is if I'm feeling that I can't trust or my students don't have access to a device, that my best alternative would be for me as the teacher to put it up on the screen to take away that
Yeah.
digital element out of their hands, but that
Mhm.
way they still have access to all of the things and they can do the handout on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even just like adding it as part of a station. Like if you're doing a station day, I love stations, but if you're doing a station day and you had a small group who they happen to be parked right next to your desk is where that station is happening, that would be maybe another good way of monitoring it if you have access to checking out like two or three devices, or maybe they have one that's projected on the screen and their small group is going through it together while other people are doing that. That would also be another way you could run that.
Awesome. And so I think we have one more question for you. A little on the like sad side of the question, but I have so much faith that you're going to have some options for us. This person said, I really want to use virtual field trips so badly, but I'm in the state of New York, and every time my students go to access them, we can't access them. We know accessibility is like so important, and it's becoming very tight everywhere, which is making things really hard for people. We talked a little bit about paper and those kind of options. What would you say to this? I know you can't change the laws in New
Right.
York. I wish you
Right.
could. I wish that for you. What would you say for somebody who is wanting to use these products, but for some reason they can't access them or their students can't access them?
So if they can't access that particular map tool, we can kind of circle back to where I was talking about how you can use virtual field trips on pretty much any platform you prefer. And I know things are getting a lot tighter and it's going to depend because I don't know like the fine details of what exactly is making it not work, right? It could be um, like the sharing permissions, it could be your district not having unlocked it, it could be the state having blocked it. And so, depending on where we are in that hierarchy of issues, it could be the website. And so, if that's the case, then maybe try using Google Slides instead, or try using ThingLink or PowerPoint, or. I do have a blog post where I've got some of my favorite options for virtual field trips. So if that person wanted to go check that out and just kind of explore there, that would be a really good place to do it. But honestly, I mean, it could literally be a choice board on a Google Doc
Hmm.
listing the things, which does takes the map element out of it a little bit, but there's that interactive component as well. So depending on what you have access to, you can go back to kind of that menu of choices and pick and choose from there to find it and make that work.
Awesome. Well, I will link that blog post in the comments of this for folks that want to check out some alternative options. But it sounds like there may be some solutions. Just even if it's asking somebody, I know that we all get kind of clammy when it's like, oh, you need to go ask permission for something. But sometimes it might just be asking, and maybe asking would get whatever it is unblocked so that they could use it. It's not like we're playing video games, right?
Right?
Like
Like
we,
this is a reason. And honestly, the last time I switched districts, I did the thing where I forgot to check the tech before I was doing the lesson, and it was first hour, and we were doing a virtual field
of
trip, and they were
course.
all telling me, "Oh, I can't see it," and I was like, "What do you mean you can't see it? Like I shared it with you. I know I did. Like I know I did that." And then one of my kids turned her screen, and I was like, "Oh, I know that message. That message is telling me that the district says no to this website." And so I was like, everybody stay here. And I just took my laptop and I hustled down to the media center and I was like, hi, can you unblock this site for me right now? And they were like, right now? And I was like, uh-huh.
Like 3 minutes ago.
Like right now. And I was like, do you see me sweating? This is my lesson plan for right now. And they were like, there. And then I was, okay, bye. So Like, depending, it might just be that simple. You maybe show up sweaty and it might help your case a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to
Like
work it.
the panic face, I think really helped sell it. Like, yes, I do need this, but
That's totally true.
you
Totally.
you
You
should.
gotta work what you got. You gotta work with what you're dealt, you know? Can't just leave everything to chance.
Like,
Well,
okay.
do you have anything that we didn't talk about that you think is maybe like really important for people to know about virtual field trips or about maybe the kind of virtual field trips they can find from you? We're gonna link those in the comments so people can access those virtual field trips and see what options you have for people to
Sure.
purchase
Well,
and use.
I mean, I do have one that's just done that they can just use. And honestly, even if you're like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this or not, throw that in your emergency sub plan. So it's one that explores the Dominican Republic, is the free one that I have for you to try out. So if you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll use this someday. And you could use it at the start of your unit. You could use it in the middle of the unit. You could use it at the end of the unit. You could use it on one of those random days where you're just like, I cannot, you know? But just put that in your file for those times when you're just like, I just need a little bit of help, because that's one of those things that's great for. It also, like we talked about, it's not just for countries. You could use it for any cultural celebrations. You can use it for studying like groups of people. I love using it with artists because, again, where are these people from, or where is their art installed and celebrated, and what museums are we talking about? I mean, there's just a lot of different ways you could do it. So maybe we can share some of those different options too.
Okay, so since you said they can be used with subplans, these are going to take enough time that students are not going to like scare the sub out of the building. Are they in Spanish or English? Are these level appropriate for anyone? Like, who can I
Yeah.
throw this in my emergency subplan folder for what levels?
So I make them in Spanish and English, and then I mix and match like the languages depending on the level. So you could do English trip, English handouts. You could do Spanish trip, English handouts. You could do Spanish, Spanish. You could do English and Spanish, right? Totally depends on what you want to have happen and the levels of your students. With a sub, I might do like for level one, I might do English, English, just so I know that they're getting the information and there's not hangups. Again, kind of depends on the topic, right? So if I'm going to be gone and they're doing a Day of the Dead field trip, I'm probably going to pick English and English because I'm not there to make sure like I'm floating around and I'm checking to make sure there's no like weird misunderstandings about something.
Sure.
But if I'm present, then I might do okay, Spanish, English handouts, and I'm floating around and I'm checking to see like okay, yeah, what you're writing down makes sense. You're understanding what's happening here, that kind of thing. But yeah, you mix and match the languages depending on your students' needs.
Perfect. I think that's so important for people to know because a lot of times we just kind of jump into something and then we're like, oh wait, it's not what I thought it was gonna be. So
Yeah.
it sounds like this Dominican Republic one that you have for folks to try can be used for anyone at any
Yeah,
point.
I mean they could totally just test it out and see. And that's a really good way to see if like I said, I have my favorite tool that I like to use to create virtual field trips for. Not every district loves it. Not every what like right, not everybody has it unblocked, all that sort of stuff. So if you're like, oh, I would really like to try these out, that's a good way to see if that platform will work for you. And if you download it and you open it and your district is like, you're like, oh, okay, okay. Like then don't use that website or go down the hall sweaty and ask your tech person to save you.
There you go. That's
Up
all
to
you need in
you.
life. It's just the tech person saving you. That
Like that's
is,
like tip number one at a new
yes,
school is make best friends with the tech guy and then the janitor, right? Those two people have to be your friends.
exactly. That's all you need. If you've got those people on your side, you are invincible in the
Golden.
classroom. Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking about virtual field trips. We will link all the things below for all the people. Do you have any last words that we missed or didn't cover?
No, I think we really dug into them. And I mean, like I said, there's so many different ways you could do it. So if you're like, oh, I kind of want to give this a try, do it, try it. Have your students make one. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about that, but you could, right? Your students could make one and then everybody could do it. And there's so many different things you can do with these. So have fun.
I love that. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. Thank you to Senorita Spanish for joining us today. We will send all of her information in the description below so that you can access this Dominican Republic. You can see all the amazing things she has created that you can use a virtual field trip for, her blog, all of that information. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks.